Okay, hi everybody, Chef Fortunato back again for another video. This is our second part of doing fresh pasta. So in the first video I showed you how to make fresh pasta dough. This has been in the refrigerator for a couple hours. Like I said, it could be up to 24 hours, not any longer than that. It also will start turning green or this bluish gray spots because the fresh eggs are in there. To roll out pasta, you can do it the old-fashioned way with a rolling pin, but you're going to be here for a very long time. If you can get yourself a pasta rolling machine, it's a fun thing. They're not that expensive, about 50 bucks, and they do pretty much everything for you. So to use this, they're basically all the same. Every machine is slightly different, but the premise is the same. Right? If you look in here, right, there are two rollers, right, like two rolling pins, and there's a hand crank. And when you stick that in here, when you turn, the two wheels rotate together. There is a knob here, right, that allows you to make the sizes or the gap, right, bigger or smaller. They have numbers on them. Every company is different. But the biggest thing is you'll notice in between the rollers, right, that the size gets from big and then goes all the way down to small. So you always want to start off on the largest setting, which is in this company, in this case, is a 1. Right, so what we're going to do is you want to make sure you have a couple of tools on hand before you start. A bench scraper or something to cut. You don't want to use a sharp knife or you'll damage the knife and also the table. So just something that will cut the dough. A bench scraper or a dough cutter is great. Right, some flour, right? Any bench flour. Once again, we're using all-purpose. And if you happen to have semolina flour, also have some semolina flour on hand as well. Right, so very easy thing to work with. These smaller machines can only handle about a half a pound of the dough. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you are not using the entire thing. If you try to put this entire dough through the machine, it'll never make it. So you're going to cut this into about thirds. It makes it a little easier to handle. Do not discard the plastic. You'll wrap those back up so they do not dry out. And you put them to the side. Okay, so now, first thing you want to notice is that the dough is very soft now. When we first made this was very tough, very reactive. When I pushed it, it would spring right back into place. Right now, there's two things you'll notice. It's softer, much more pliable, and also it's much more sticky, which means if we try to stick this in here without any flour, this is going to get stuck to the machine and it's going to get shredded all inside the rollers and we'll have a nightmare. So what you want to do is have a nice amount of flour on hand, and you're going to completely dredge that dough in flour so that it's completely covered. Not one part is that has that raw sticky dough. Also, I'll take a little bit of flour, sprinkle it on my rollers, and in the area where it's going to come out. It's going to work from here, from this side, going in and out this way. So make sure you have enough room for this sheet to come out. So I'll sprinkle a little bit of flour on my work surface, and we're good to go. First thing I like to do is just give it a light squeeze. When you squeeze one end, it will allow the tip to get grabbed between the rollers. If you try to jam something that's like 2 inches thick through there, it's not going to catch. So if you get a nice start here by just pinching the end, you feed it in, and when you crank, once it grabs a bite, it will start to pull all the way through. And I'll show you when it comes out. And there we go. Now, before I change the setting, what I want to do is I don't want to continue to keep going through. You'll notice I have a very thin, long piece. We want a wider piece, about the width of the machine. So to achieve that, what you're going to do is you're going to tri-fold this, which means you'll have 3 folds, and you want to fold it about the width of the machine. So instead of sticking it through this way again, we're going to go put it through this way, okay, so that we've achieved that wide belt. So I'm going to push them together so they stick and back through the machine again. Right? Once it grabs, you don't have to hold on to it that much. And now you'll notice we have a beautiful wide sheet, which you'll get more fettuccine or more linguine, whatever else you're going to make from this. It's supposed to have a very long, thin, tongue-looking shape. So I'll come back here, and I'm going to move the dial now to the lower setting. Okay, so I went from 1 to 2, and I'm just going to continually keep feeding this through. And what will happen is that as the rollers get closer and closer together, it'll make the sheet longer and thinner. So the first couple times through, it doesn't really look like much has happened. every time I take it out of the machine, I want to rub the top and the bottom down with a little more flour to make sure that there is no area that's going to be sticky. Okay, I'm going to lift this up. I'm going to change it now to setting 3 and make my way down through. Okay. Feel that both top and bottom, and it actually becomes more of a repetitive motion. So now I'm going to move it back down. And now I'm on 4, and I'm just keep making my way down from the very wide section all the way down to a much lower setting. And you'll notice that the sheet is getting wider, or excuse me, longer and thinner. Now, depending on what you want to do, on what pasta you're going to make, is going to depend on the thickness that you're going to go down to. So I'm on 4. This goes all the way down to approximately 7. Okay, I'm going to go to either 6 or 7 and see where that's at, and I'll see you then. All right, so you see how now I'm on the 6th setting, and you can see how long and thin this gets. Right, we're not going to go any further than this. I'm going to stop here. We're going to be doing a simple fettuccine, which are wide little belts. So at this point, you'll notice 2 things. It's thin and it's long. So when you hold this, you don't want to hold it with your fingertips because it's so thin that you can poke a hole through it. You want to drape it over the backs of your hands, almost like you were putting a scarf or you were laying it around something. You want to just drape it to be delicate. Now this is very long. So we want to cut it down to more manageable pieces. This will be about 3 pieces. We want it to be the length of how long our fettuccines are going to be. So about a foot and a half. The last thing you want is like the Lady and the Tramp. You don't want a mile long spaghetti or fettuccine. So we want to cut them down. And right now you have pasta sheets that are ready to go for anything. You can make fettuccine like we're going to make. You can make raviolis. You can make agnolottis, tortellinis, anything you want. If you wanted to go to make something that's called more capellini, which is a very thin pasta, you would go more down to the 7 setting, the thinnest setting there is. But in our case, 6 is going to be exactly what we want. Now, right now, we're going to let these dry for approximately 10 minutes. If we try to run them through the rollers or the cutters, which is right over here, right? These are little cutting teeth or cutting wheels that basically get run through and the pasta gets run through it. If we try to run it through right now, what will happen is that since the dough is still very wet, it'll stick. So letting it dry for about 5 to 10 minutes will allow us to run these through and the noodles will come right apart and they will not stick. So we'll see you back here in 5 minutes. All right, so 10 minutes has passed and our sheets have dried a little. Now, they're not going to be too dry. You don't want to let them dry for hours because then they will become so brittle they'll crack. So the idea is you want to let them dry for about 10 minutes so that they become a little leathery. And you'll notice the feeling. It won't be so sticky. It'll feel a little kind of a leathery and tough on the outside. At that point, what you're going to do is take your handle out of the rollers and now stick it into the cutting wheels. And it works the same way. The only thing you're going to do is now feed the sheet into the cutting wheels. And when I get a little starting point, in the beginning it's a little difficult to start it up. So I like to just feed the tip in. And then once it pulls it through, once it catches it, it'll pull it through all on its own. And you'll notice you'll get these beautiful strands of fettuccine. So typically what you want to do is you want to take some of that semolina flour at this point, sprinkle it down on your pan, right, and make a little nest, right, and this is going to prevent it from sticking to itself. Okay, you don't want to pile too much onto itself. I like to make little nests and lay them down. I'll show you one more time, right. This is actually the fun part of doing this. Right, you're going to just stick that in, kind of feed it in. Once the rollers catch it or grab it, it'll start pulling it through all on its own. And all you got to do is catch it on out, and now you have a beautiful amount of some fresh fettuccine pasta. Once again, you'll take some of that that down, and I'll just make a little, what we call a little nest. You just turn it around, and just like as if you would get it in a gourmet shop, just like that. You can make these into small nests, and they'll last in the refrigerator for about 2-3 days. I wouldn't want to go any more than that. Remember, it is fresh pasta. And you can freeze these as well, right? Once again, don't stack it on top of itself. Freeze them in individual bags, and they'll stay up to 2-3 months in the freezer. Okay, guys, if you like my videos, please like me and give it a try yourself. Bon appetit.